If your child is deaf or hard of hearing, especially with school starting this month, you want to do everything that you can to ensure it doesn't hold them back from getting the most out of their education.
Joining us now with the best ways to help children that are hard of hearing is Executive Director from the Hearing and Speech Center, Marcey Ansley. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I love coming in here. I always get something great. So there you go.
Well, it's
the
great.
inspiration quote was fantastic today.
It's great having you here.
Listening.
And speaking of that,
thank you.
Speaking of that, Marcey, your organization has been an inspiration, has been a shot of hope for so many families who were dealt with this from their children at a young age, and they really don't know what to do or where to turn, and that's where you come in.
Absolutely. I think the word that we overwhelmingly hear is hope, and so I appreciate that you had said that, and that we do provide hope for families. I'm one of those moms. You know, my son has hearing loss. He's got bilateral hearing loss. No one in our family, which is typical, so 95% of our families have no childhood hearing loss, and so we want to make sure that hearing healthcare doesn't end with the newborn hearing screening.
Right.
So, because that sometimes I think we fall back on that as parents to go, oh, well, they passed the newborn hearing screening. So just to be aware and be mindful that if you're concerned at all, go ahead and get a hearing test. It doesn't take a lot to go ahead and jump in and get that done. And we like to play. So when we go through our hearing evaluations for both our kids, probably our adults would like it too, but we play games in order to identify hearing loss, because really we want every opportunity for our kiddos to be prepared for school, which then prepares them to go out into the workforce, whether it be for collegiately or for a technical job or something else. So because without that treated hearing loss, our kids have speech language delays. They can be isolated from their peers. There's some issues with not with cognition, but with fear of just being alone. And so we really want to make sure that they've got a leg up on all of their opportunities academically and socially, and eventually vocationally.
Yeah. And so what are some ways that the Hearing and Speech Center prepares them for school?
Sure. So we actually have 3 different programs internally, and so we have the triad of care if a family chooses to do all 3. Of course, we have our Family Hearing Center, which we lovingly call Twinkle to Wrinkle. So we start with hearing evaluations as young as a couple weeks old. So as soon as the baby fails a newborn hearing screening, or if a family is concerned, we go through and do a whole battery of tests and assessments, and one of which the baby's sound asleep. So we do a brain reaction testing, so we can identify hearing loss at a couple of weeks old. But for some families, you know, their kids may have progressive hearing loss and they'll see it over a few years. So we'll come in and do some booth testing also to make sure that we can identify that hearing loss as early as possible. So of course, number 1 is to make sure that we've got the right technology in order to support language development, because again, language development is key. And then from there, we can provide speech language therapy. And I love the quote about being silent and listen, because we call it listening and spoken language therapy.
Right.
And so we have a team of speech therapists who teach listening to parents, listening strategies, as well as spoken language, because you have to learn how to listen before we can talk.
It's an amazing thing. One of the very earliest graduates from over there, buddy of mine who's now working as a sportscaster, sports reporter down in Florida, and it's just great. Thanks, Marcey.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.